Good day, kids! How are you today? I am Teacher Ronel, your English 5 teacher, and welcome to our English class. For today's lesson, you will learn about modals. And I am sure that at the end of our discussion, you will be able to compose clear and coherent sentences using appropriate grammatical structure, modals. So, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I know you are ready. To start our lesson today, let us recite this poem all together. Every name is called a noun, as field and fountain, streets and town. In place of noun, the pronoun stands, as he and she can clap their hands. The adjective describes a thing, as magic wand or bridal ring. Most verbs mean action, something done, to read and write, to jump and run. How things are done, the adverbs tell, as quickly, slowly, badly, well. The preposition shows relation, as in the street or at the station. Conjunction joins in many ways. Sentences, words, or phrase and phrase. Modal verbs are auxiliary verbs like will and shall, can, would, and could. Alright, very good! Now let us focus our attention to the last two lines of the poem that we read. That says, modal verbs are auxiliary verbs like will and shall, and would and could. Now I know you must be thinking, what is modal and what are modal verbs? Right?
Yes, sir.
But don't worry, kids. I will help you explore the beautiful world of modal verbs. Now, let's begin. What are modal verbs? Modal verbs are helping verbs or auxiliary verbs that are used with main verbs. It gives different moods or meaning to the main verbs or action words. It tells us what is the modality of the action or the main verbs. For example, we can keep our surroundings clean. In this, the speaker is expressing an ability to do something. The modal verb can expresses an ability to do something. Another example, we should keep our surroundings clean. In this sentence, the speaker is obliging the other person to do the task. There is a sense of responsibility to the action when we use the modal verb should. Another example, we must keep our surroundings clean. In this sentence, the modal verb must is in a way of ordering or commanding the other person to do something, and the listener is strongly obliged to follow. Now here are the different characteristics of modal verbs. The first characteristic of modal verbs is they never change their form. That means you cannot add s, ed, or ing after modals. For example, she can dance very well. You cannot say she can dance very well, or you cannot also say she can dancing. The second characteristic of modals is they are always followed by the main verb. For example, my mother will cook our dinner tonight. The modal will is followed by the main verb cook. You cannot also say, my mother will cook our dinner tonight, or my mother will cooking our dinner tonight. That is X. The third characteristic of modal verbs is they are used to express different types of modality, such as ability, permission, advice, obligation, possibility, and probability. Now here is the list of modal verbs. On the first column is the type, the second column is the modal verbs, and the third column are examples of sentences. The modal verbs can and could express ability. For example, David can speak 3 languages, or he could speak fluent French when he was 5. The modal verbs can, could, and may express permission. For example, can I sit in that chair, please? Could I open that window? May I borrow your dictionary? Alright. The modal verbs should expresses advice. For example, you should visit your dentist twice a year. Or, you should try to lose weight. The modal verbs might, may, could, and can express possibility. For example, it looks nice, but it might be very expensive. Another example, Richard may be coming to see us tomorrow. Let's do it again. The modal verbs can and could express ability. For example, I can memorize the multiplication table. Or, I could swim in the river since I was 7. The modal verbs can, could, and may express permission. For example, can I go to the bathroom? Could I borrow your book? May I come in? The modal verb should expresses advice. For example, you should drink plenty of water every day. The modal verbs must and have to express obligation. For example, I must memorize all the rules about verb tenses. And you have to wear slippers before going out. The modal verbs might, may, could, and can express possibility. For example, it might rain today. You may take your seat. He could lend you his notebook. Richard can be 20 by the way he thinks. The modal verb will expresses prediction. Example, I think he will be good this time. Alright, now that you already know the different examples of modal verbs, let us try these exercises. Make sure that you write your answer on your paper, write legibly, and do it neatly. Alright, let's begin.
Yes, sir.
Our first exercise says, compose clear and coherent sentences using appropriate grammatical structure by identifying the correct modal verb used in each of the sentence. Sentence number 1. Are you ready?
Yes!
Alright. The children must leave their bag for inspection before they enter the gate. What is the modal verb used? Okay. The modal verb used in sentence number 1 is must, and it expresses obligation. The children are obliged to leave their bag for inspection before entering the gate. Very good. Next, number 2. Can I borrow your writing pen? What is the modal verb used? Alright. The modal verb used for sentence number 2 is can, and it expresses permission. The speaker is asking permission if he can borrow a writing pen. Sentence number 3. Pupils like you should study well. What is the modal verb used? The modal verb used for sentence number 3 is should, and it expresses advice. The speaker is giving advice to pupils like you to study very well. Next number 4. You can sit here while listening. What is the modal verb used? The modal verb used in sentence number 4 is can, and it expresses permission. The speaker is allowing someone to sit while listening. Correct. Next, let's move on to number 5. I could wait for you in an hour. What is the modal verb used? Alright. The modal verb used in sentence number 5 is could, and could expresses ability. The speaker is expressing that he can wait for him in an hour. Alright, very good. Let's give a hand for that. Kids, we will have another exercise. This time, you are going to compose clear and coherent sentences using appropriate grammatical structure by completing each sentence with the correct modal verb. Are you guys ready?
Yes!
Alright, let's do it. Sentence number 1. Could, must, might. Say it again more slowly. What is the modal verb used? Okay, the modal verb used in sentence number 1 is could, and could expresses permission. The speaker is asking permission if somebody could say it again more slowly. Sentence number 2. It must, can, may rain on Saturday. What is the modal verb used? The modal verb used in sentence number 2 is may, and it expresses possibility. The speaker is expressing possibility that it may rain on Saturday. Sentence number 3. I think he can, will, might study hard this time. What is the modal verb? The modal verb used in sentence number 3 is will, and will expresses prediction. The speaker is predicting that he will be studying hard this time. Sentence number 4. It's quite dark. It can, might, should be after 8 o'clock. The correct answer for sentence number 4 is might, and might expresses probability. A probability that it's very dark outside, it might be after 8 o'clock in the evening. Next, number 5, the last number for this exercise. May, might, should I come in? What is the modal verb? The modal verb used in sentence number 5 is may, and may expresses permission. The speaker is asking permission if he may be able to come inside. Alright, children, that's very good. It's a very good word. Alright, now that you are getting well, I know that you want more. So this time, we will have another exercise. And again, you have to compose clear and coherent sentences using appropriate grammatical structure by completing the sentences with the correct modal verb. And then, you are going to choose your answer below. Alright? Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sentence number 1. Alright? I blank ran fast. What is the modal verb? Okay? The modal verb used for sentence number 1 is can. I can run fast, and it expresses ability. Sentence number 2. You blank take your seat. Okay, the correct answer is may. And may expresses permission. Alright, sentence number 3. Children blank go home directly after class. What is the modal verb? The modal verb is should, and should expresses advise. The children should go home directly after class. Sentence number 4. We all know that Kenshin blank come to my party. What is the modal verb to be used? The modal verb to be used is will, and it expresses prediction. Alright, sentence number 5. Blank, I borrow your English book. What is the modal verb to be used in sentence number 5? The correct answer is may. May I borrow your English book? And it expresses permission. Okay, very good. Very good, kids. Now you're getting well. You're getting way better. Alright. Now this time, we are going to have another activity. This time, you are going to answer completely, you are going to write neatly, and you are going to write legibly. And after, we are going to check your paper directly. Of course, that is right after 5 minutes. Take note, there are 2 answers in every item.
Yes, sir.
Just follow the direction. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Alright, you may now begin. Alright, let us check your work. The direction says, compose clear and coherent sentences using appropriate grammatical structure by identifying the modal verb and the type of modals used in each sentence. So like I said earlier, there should be 2 answers in each item. Number 1. She looks sick. She should go home. The modal verb is should, and the type of modal, it is of course advice. Correct. Next, sentence number 2. Winters in Alaska can be very, very cold. The modal verb used is can, and the type of modal is possibility. Correct. Sentence number 3. I must study next week. The modal verb is must, and the type of modal is obligation. Correct. Next, sentence number 4. I can speak English. The modal verb is can, and can expresses ability. So the type of modal is ability. And for sentence number 5, can you join me to church? The modal verb is can, and the type of modal is permission. Okay? Very good. Very good, kids. Congratulations. Now let us try to wrap up what had transpired in our discussion today.
Yes!
Now I want you to tell me, what is a modal verb? Very good, kids! A modal verb is a helping verb or an auxiliary verb that is used with the main verb. It tells us what is the modality of the main verb. Alright, that's very nice. Now, what are the different examples of modal verbs. Okay, very good. The different examples of modal verbs are can, could, will, shall, must, have to, and many more. There are different kinds or different examples of modal verbs. Now, what are the different types of modal verbs? Good job, children! The different types of modal verbs are ability, permission, prohibition, probability, obligation, and so many more. Okay, very good. Alright, now that we are through discussing about the different kinds of modal verbs and what are modal verbs as well as the types of modal verbs, I want you to get a piece of paper and we will have a short quiz. You are going to compose clear and coherent sentences using appropriate grammatical structure by identifying the modal verb used. You may now begin. Alright, let us check. Let's read number 1. Charlie will go to school next school year. The correct answer is will. Correct. Number 2. You should see your doctor. The answer is should. Correct. Number 3. After pandemic, we will go to Baguio. The answer is will. Correct. Number 4. Dennis must study hard to pass the exam. The answer is must. Correct. And number 5. Ernie could read the alphabet when he was 3. The answer is could. Very good. Now we will have another quiz. I want you to do it neatly and do not forget to write your name.
Yes, sir.
Now if you are ready, you may now begin. Now this time, I want you to copy your assignment. Now while copying your assignment, I would just like to remind you that all our pen and paper exercises will be submitted to me comes Wednesday next week. Now be responsible enough to put it inside your envelope so your parents or your guardians can submit it to me next week. Alright kids? Once again, I am Teacher Runel, your English 5 teacher today, saying, God bless you, Mama Mary loves you, and I likewise do. Goodbye kids! I'll see you again on our next lesson. God bless, and may you all have a good one.